wurgen en of hem te verdrinken.
Rot door jou!
Nee, mevrouw.
Kleine muzikant dood, mevrouw.
Like and subscribe.
Have you ever wondered how someone could completely lose all empathy? Not just once, but again and again. How they could hurt those we instinctively protect. Well, that question haunts the story of Gino van der Straeten, a 9-year-old boy whose disappearance and murder gripped the Netherlands. This isn't just a story of tragedy. It's a story that exposes the fragility of trust, the consequences of neglect, and the systems we rely on to keep children safe. Before we begin, a gentle warning. This story touches on child abuse and murder. It is heavy, it is upsetting, and it may linger along with you after. Take a moment if you need to. Your well-being matters to me. But if you stay, I promise you'll see not just what happened to Gino, but why this case left such a long-lasting mark on the country. It was the evening of June 1st, 2022, in Kerkrade, a quiet town near the German border. About 45,000 people, close-knit neighborhoods, streets that children still play outside and where neighbors know each other by name. Gino was staying with his older sister that week. His sister's home was a calm refugee in an otherwise turbulent home because Gino's mother was very ill. And that evening, he went to the supermarket with her boyfriend. He asked if he could play football while the shopping was done. He was allowed, but promised to be back in an hour. But as the sun went down, Gino didn't return. Calls went unanswered and his name echoed down empty streets. And by 8:30 p.m., the police were involved. When we hear of a child being taken, we ask why. Psychologists have studied these cases for decades, and some will say trauma and neglect warp empathy, while others say certain acts defy explanation entirely. Well, whatever it is, one trait is often shared. These individuals know how to hide. They blend in, mimic normalcy, show their real face until it's too late.
Now you've got the idea. Put plenty of coke in that refrigerator.
In this case, the face belonged to Donny M, a 22-year-old man. You see, Donny M wasn't a stranger to the system. His story was troubled from the very beginning. He was reportedly already born addicted to drugs because his mother was battling addiction during pregnancy. From a young age, he grew up in instability, foster care, institutions, places where he never found a steady footing. Yet, it is no excuse for the crimes that he committed. But Donny's history wasn't just about a rough childhood. There were many red flags from the beginning. In the years leading up to Gino's death, Donny had been accused of very disturbing behavior and crimes. He was known, he was warned about, and still, no one stopped him. Many in the community later asked,
How was someone like this able to move freely without supervision?
well, let's get some clarity on that. Years before Gino's murder, Donny M had already been convicted of sexual abuse of young children. In 2017, Donny M was already found guilty of abusing and molesting 2 younger boys. And for this, Donny served time and undergone mandatory psychiatric treatment. When he was released, experts assessed him as a
High risk to reoffend.
Yet, despite these warnings, he was living freely in a community surrounded by children. And even before all of this, Donny had already been arrested once for a firework incident. And when the police confiscated his phone, they discovered CP on it. But instead of being investigated, the phone just ended up in an evidence box at the station and was never looked at again. At that time, Donny was still under supervision. Yet, nothing was done. No follow-up, no report, no consequences. It was a massive failure, one that later proved fatal for poor Gino. And so after his sentence for the horrible things that he did to those 2 boys, he was supposed to be under supervised probation. He had certain restrictions, not to be around minors, to remain in contact with the probation officer, and to continue therapy. But somewhere along the line, the system lost track of him. Again. He stopped showing up for appointments, and no one, not the probation officers, not the mental health authorities, seemed to notice quickly enough. When the public learned this, outrage erupted. How could someone with a record like Donny, someone known to be dangerous, be out without active monitoring? It wasn't just a failure. It was a collapse of trust in the institutions meant to protect children like Gino. Now, all these details I'm about to tell you are deeply distressing. Understanding them is important. They remind us of the real-world consequences of neglecting warning signs, and the need for communities and authorities to work together to safeguard children. Again, if this might be too much for you to hear, it's okay to shut down the video and do something else. Go outside, make yourself a tea, and I'll see you in the next one. By early 2003, Donny M was in court. The prosecution didn't help back. They painted him as an extremely dangerous man who should never walk free again. They demanded life imprisonment and indefinite psychiatric detention on what the Dutch call as TBS, a system for offenders considered a danger to society. Throughout the trial, Gino's sisters sat in the courtroom, and their presence was powerful. Despite their grief, they spoke bravely about what Gino meant to them, how his absence had destroyed their family, and why justice mattered. Many people watching the trial said it was his sisters who showed the most strength of anyone in that room. The afternoon session of the trial was perhaps the most difficult, as the courtroom heard a detailed account of what had happened to Gino in Donny M's home. It began with how Gino was taken that day. Feeling watched, near at the parking lot, Donny lured Gino inside his car, drove him to his home, and telling him,
Come with me for a moment. My brother will bring you home soon, and I'm not angry.
Gino, trusting him, followed into the house. Once inside, Donny M used drugs and created a situation where the boy was entirely vulnerable. Gino even handed him a small drink of juice to try to ease the tension. At some point, Gino saw Donny using drugs in the bathroom, the very place Donny had chosen carefully. It was quiet, isolated, and where no one could hear them. This was the space where the tragedy unfolded. Court documents detailed that Donny M forced Gino to undress and then did horrible things to him. In addition, he gave him substances, including an MDMA pill and Viagra, which caused the child to become very sick. And when Gino vomited, Donny's reaction was anger. He forced the boy to clean it up with towels and made him shower. And the situation escalated further, ultimately resulting in Donny smothering Gino with a pillow because he wanted him to stop crying. According to the court, this act was done after he had searched online for methods to ensure the child would not make any noise, demonstrating premeditation. After Gino's death, Donny attempted to conceal the body. He wrapped it in garbage bags and transported it into a burned-out house nearby, originally planning to burn it, even purchasing gasoline. Ultimately, he left the body there instead, thinking it would not be discovered. During his trial, the judge asked him why he didn't burn the body. His response was that he thought at that point that burning his body would be a step too far. Yes, you heard that well. After all the horrors he did to a 9-year-old boy, he thought that burning his body would be a step too far, and he definitely couldn't do that. It wasn't Donny M who went to the police and confessed about his crimes. The breakthrough in the investigation came 3 days after Gino's missing, when the police found his scooter, abandoned near the parking at the local pool. Donny's DNA, already in the national database from the previous 2017 sexual abuse case, linked him definitively to the crime.
This lucky baby will sleep quietly through the night. Yes, no matter how high the temperature goes outdoors, this baby is RC.
Psychiatric evaluations were presented in court, showing that Donny suffered from a PDFL disorder and other psychological conditions. The court determined that he was diminishedly accountable, which means that his mental health and drug use played a role in his actions, but he was still responsible enough for a severe punishment. He was sentenced to 25 years in prison, followed by TBS, that Dutch measure combining mandatory psychiatric treatment and supervision, ensuring he could not harm others while receiving treatment. Before we move on, let me explain a little bit more context behind this verdict and why people might have been conflicted over this. TBS is intended for offenders who are considered mentally ill or dangerous, and it's meant to prepare them for reintegration into society rather than purely punish. Usually, TBS is combined with a prison term, for example, 25 years. During that prison term, the offender serves their sentence like normal. Only after those 25 years, TBS treatment can officially start. In practice, this means the system balances both public safety and the possibility of rehabilitation. But because of this structure, many people find it tricky. Because it is not a traditional life sentence and it's not an immediate indefinite treatment. And using the term rehabilitation for someone who has done the most awful crime also sparks a lot of anger. In cases like Donny M, the court can impose long-term detention alongside TBS, ensuring that he cannot harm others while also receiving psychiatric care that addresses the root of his dangerous behavior. TBS can be extended an endless amount of time, every 1 or 2 years. So there is a high certainty that the court will extend his TBS over and over again. The sentence reflected Gino's case, the prior offenses and the involvement with illegal material. The court also ordered compensation to Gino's family for the emotional suffering, the funeral costs and the pain endured. Total, over 163,000 euros, or 200,000 US dollars. But just when the case was finished, tragedy struck again. His mother passed away shortly after. She already was ill, but her family said that losing her son broke her completely. His 2 sisters became his advocates, calling for stronger child protection laws, stricter monitoring, and systematic accountability. Gino's story reminds us of human cruelty and the urgent need for vigilance. Yet, beyond tragedy, Gino was a boy who loved cars, who loved Lego, who always dreamed of owning a gold Lamborghini, but most of all, a boy who loved being with his family. Thank you for listening. If you or someone you know has been affected by similar issues, please reach out to a trusted professional or a local helpline. If you want to help me keep sharing stories that matter, like this video and subscribe. Together we can listen, learn, and never forget.